The moment Alice stepped off the train that chugged its way through the lush green mountains to Simla, she could feel the crisp, cool air of the British colonial hill station kiss her cheeks. She had been dreaming of this trip for months, ever since she received the prestigious invitation to participate in the archery tournament at Annandale. It was a chance to not only test her mettle against the best archers from across the empire, but also to escape the stifling heat of the plains. The scenery was breathtaking, with pine-covered slopes and terraced hills giving way to a quaint little town that clung to the sides of the mountains like a collection of brightly coloured jewels. As Alice made her way through the bustling streets, lined with British-style cottages and shops, she couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement mingling with nostalgia. This place was so different from her home, yet so eerily familiar due to its colonial influences. The smell of freshly baked bread wafted from the local bakery, competing with the aromatic scent of spices from a nearby Indian market. The cacophony of English and Hindustani filled the air, creating a delightful symphony of cultures colliding. She felt as though she had entered a world suspended in time, where the grandeur of the Raj still held sway over the land. Her destination was the Grand Hotel Savoy, a relic from the era that still bore the hallmarks of imperial grandeur. Upon her arrival, she was greeted by the hotel's impeccably dressed staff, who ushered her into the cool embrace of the lobby. The grandeur of the place was not lost on her. The high ceilings adorned with intricate plasterwork, the polished wooden floors, and the plush sofas that whispered of high tea and gossiping socialites. Her room offered a spectacular view of the valley, with the distant mountains standing guard like sentinels over the town. As she unpacked her bow and quiver of arrows, she couldn't resist the urge to practice a few shots from the balcony. The sound of her bowstring resonating through the quiet afternoon. The archery tournament was to commence in 2 days, leaving Alice with enough time to acclimatise and explore the town. She decided to visit the Annandale grounds the following day, eager to get a feel for the place where she would soon be competing. As she strolled through the town, she encountered a young Indian boy named Raghu, who offered to show her around. His eyes sparkled with curiosity and mischief. Alice found his company. Together they navigated the steep paths, pausing at the local landmarks that Raghu pointed out with pride. The next day, Alice awoke to the sound of a distant train whistle, the signal that another batch of visitors had arrived in Simla. She dressed in her competition attire, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. Raghu had promised to meet her at the hotel, and true to his word, he was waiting outside. His grin as wide as the valley below. They made their way to Annandale, the air growing cooler and thinner as they ascended the hill. The archery field was a picturesque clearing surrounded by towering pines, with targets arranged in neat rows and a view of the town that seemed to stretch on forever that had brought them to Simla. Raghu spoke of his dreams to compete one day, and Alice found herself inspired by his passion. The day of the tournament dawned bright and clear, the air electric with anticipation. Archers from various regiments and civilian clubs had gathered, their colourful attire adding a vibrant splash to the emerald landscape. Alice felt a thrill of nerves as she stepped up to the line, her bow feeling heavier than usual in her hands. The sound of a trumpet signalled the start of the competition, and the archers took their first shots, the arrows arcing through the sky like a flock of birds in unison. She watched as the arrows thudded into the target, some closer to the centre than others, and took a deep breath, focusing on the moment. Throughout the day, Alice found herself drawn to Raghu, who was not competing, but had come to cheer her on. His encouragement and the occasional wink from the sidelines helped to steady her hand and calm her racing heart. The competition was fierce, with each round seeing archers being eliminated as the targets grew smaller and the distances increased. Alice, however, remained consistent, her eyes never leaving the bullseye as she let each arrow fly. The crowd grew hushed as she moved moved on to the final round, where she faced Colonel Brandon, a seasoned archer known for his impeccable form and unrivaled accuracy. The final round was a test of skill and endurance, with the archers required to shoot from a distance that made even the most seasoned of them quiver with anticipation. Alice took her position, her breathing even and her heart pounding in her chest. She watched as Colonel Brandon took his shot, his arrow striking the target with a precision that seemed almost superhuman. The crowd gasped as the score was called out, and Alice knew she had to give it her all. She drew back her bow, the tension down as it soared through the air, and she held her breath, waiting for the impact. When the dust settled, Alice's arrow had found its mark, just a finger's width from Colonel Brandon's. The crowd erupted into applause, and Alice felt a surge of pride and relief wash over her. The tension grew as the judges conferred, their faces stern and unreadable. Finally, they turned to announce the winner. To Alice's astonishment, they declared a tie. It was unprecedented in the history of the tournament, but the evidence was clear. Both Alice and the Colonel had shot with unparalleled skill. The organizers decided on a tiebreaker round, a single shot to determine the champion. The archers took their places again, their faces a mask of concentration. Alice felt a new weight on her shoulders. She had not come this far to share victory. She glanced over at Raoul, whose encouraging smile bolstered her spirit. With renewed resolve, she focused on the target, visualizing the perfect shot. The silence was broken only by the whisper of the wind through the pine needles. Colonel Brandon took his shot, his form as flawless as ever. His arrow lodged itself in the target with a resounding whack, just a hair's breadth from the center. The crowd held its breath as Alice stepped up for her final shot. She took her time, letting the bow's tension build in her arms. Her eyes locked on the target. Her mind was a whirlwind of strategy, instinct, honed by countless hours of practice and the pressure of the moment. She let the arrow go, watching it as it sped toward the target. A blur of motion and intent, it struck with a sound so precise it seemed to echo through the clearing. The crowd erupted once again, and Alice felt a rush of exhilaration. She realized her arrow had found its perfect resting place, dead center. The judges nodded in unison, their faces a mix of surprise and admiration. Tiebreaker. Brandon offered to let graciously, twinkling, suggesting he had not been expecting such a challenge. As Alice accepted the trophy, beautifully carved wooden cup inlaid with brass, she felt the weight of her victory sink in. This was not just a win for her, but a testament to the countless hours of training and the sacrifices she had made to pursue her passion. She glanced at Raghu, who beamed with pride, and she knew that he had played a crucial role in her success.